This is a True Crime in Real Time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
The courtroom was quiet as the prosecutors made their latest revelations, but the air in that New York City chamber carried the weight of something monumental. It was October 10th, 2024, and the prosecution, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, stood before the judge outlining evidence that could potentially shatter the defenses built by one of the most powerful men in music. Sean Diddy Combs, seated at the defense table, was facing charges that could alter the course of his life forever. Johnson's words echoed through the room. Extraordinary. That was the term she used to describe the data seized from Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles and from a private airport in Florida during raids earlier this year. The numbers were staggering. 96 electronic devices, including phones, computers, and storage drives, were confiscated. But it was what they found on just 8 of those devices that left everyone in the room breathless. Over 90 terabytes of data, a digital mountain of information that prosecutors believe holds the key to exposing a dark network of alleged criminal behavior. The courtroom listened intently as Johnson explained that investigators were still sifting through the data, which had proved challenging to extract due to its volume and complexity. And yet, this evidence was only the beginning of what promised to be a long and arduous trial. The sheer scale of the digital evidence was overwhelming, and in many ways, it painted a stark contrast to the glamorous image Diddy had cultivated over the years. The prosecutor's revelations came on the heels of a decision by Judge Arun Subramanian. Earlier that day, the judge had set a trial date for May 5th, 2025, ensuring that the world would soon hear the full details of a case that had already captivated the media and public alike. It was also the third time Diddy's legal team had made an appeal for bail, desperate to see their client released from the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where he had been held since his arrest on September 16th, 2024. But Judge Subramanian, like the judges before him, ruled that Diddy was to remain behind bars, citing concerns that went beyond his fame and fortune. The story of how Sean Diddy Combs found himself in this position is one that stretches back more than a decade. And as the pieces of this disturbing puzzle come together, the picture that emerges is one of power, influence, and, according to prosecutors, manipulation and coercion. In the indictment that was unsealed following Diddy's arrest, the allegations were laid bare. The prosecution accuses him of running what amounts to a criminal enterprise, one that operated in the shadows while his public persona glimmered in the spotlight. The charges, racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and the transportation of individuals to engage in prostitution, spanned back to 2009. The indictment detailed a chilling pattern of alleged abuse, threats, and coercion, with Diddy at the center. According to prosecutors, Diddy relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled to maintain this enterprise. He allegedly used his power to fulfill his desires, threatening and blackmailing women to keep them silent, using violence and coercion to ensure his secrets remained hidden. The indictment even included claims of kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. As the courtroom sat in stunned silence, there was no escaping the gravity of the accusations. If true, they would unravel the carefully constructed image of a man who had built a multi-million-dollar empire, a man who had, until recently, been celebrated for his business acumen and philanthropic endeavors. But now all of that was in question. The allegations were not just about crimes of passion or isolated incidents. They were about a deeply embedded pattern of abuse and control, one that allegedly spanned years. Diddy's arrest on that September day was the culmination of months of investigation. Raids were conducted at his properties, uncovering a vast array of electronic devices, and it became clear that the digital footprint left behind by this man was enormous. The scope of the data, particularly those 90 terabytes of information found on just 8 devices, suggested that investigators had tapped into a treasure trove of evidence that could hold everything from emails and text messages to financial transactions and private recordings. The digital evidence, Johnson suggested, could provide crucial insight into how this alleged criminal enterprise was run. And yet, even as the prosecutors outlined their findings, the defense team was quick to push back. "We are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office," his lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, said after the hearing. Agnifilo had remained steadfast in his defense of Diddy, describing him as a music icon, a loving father, and a man deeply invested in uplifting the black community. But beneath the surface of this glowing description was the grim reality that Diddy was facing some of the most serious charges imaginable. "He is an imperfect person," Agnifilo had stated, "but he is not a criminal." It was the same line of defense the team had used since Diddy's arrest. They argued that while he may have made mistakes, he did not deserve to be sitting in jail awaiting trial. According to them, this entire case was a fabrication, a misunderstanding of the truth twisted by prosecutors eager to bring down a famous name. And yet, there was the data, 90 terabytes of it. Extraordinary indeed. As Johnson's words echoed in the courtroom, it was clear that the evidence could tell a different story. The indictment painted Diddy as a man who allegedly used his wealth and power to control every aspect of the lives of those around him, creating an ecosystem of fear and compliance. According to prosecutors, it wasn't just Diddy who was involved. He allegedly relied on employees and associates to help him carry out these crimes, all in the name of protecting his public image. The charges leveled against Diddy included not only sex trafficking, but also the transportation of individuals to engage in prostitution. Prosecutors claimed that the criminal enterprise Diddy had created wasn't just about him. It was a system built on the exploitation of others, where women were allegedly forced into situations they could not escape. For years, Diddy's reputation remained largely untarnished in the public eye. Despite whispers of misconduct, no allegations had stuck in a way that would lead to serious legal consequences. But now, all of that was unraveling. And as the evidence continued to pile up, it became harder and harder for the defense to maintain that this was simply a case of exaggerated charges. But for Diddy's legal team, there was still a glimmer of hope. Agnifilo insisted that his client was fully cooperative, noting that Diddy had voluntarily relocated to New York to face the charges in what he described as the acts of an innocent man. To his credit, Diddy had maintained his composure throughout the process, expressing confidence that he would be cleared of all charges when the trial began. In fact, his defense attorney doubled down on this confidence in a recent interview, saying, "He's innocent. I believe he's innocent. I believe he's innocent of the charges. He's going to go to trial. And I believe he's going to win." It was a bold statement given the sheer magnitude of the evidence prosecutors had gathered. But Diddy's legal team knew they were fighting an uphill battle. They also knew that public opinion could sway one way or the other, depending on how the trial unfolded. For now, the clock was ticking. With the trial set for May 5th, 2025, there were still months of preparation ahead. Both the defense and the prosecution would have to comb through the mountains of evidence to build their cases. The digital evidence alone would take time to fully analyze, and there was no telling what investigators might find as they continued to sift through the 90 terabytes of data. Meanwhile, Diddy remained behind bars. His bail denied yet again. Prosecutors had repeatedly argued that he was a flight risk, citing his immense wealth and access to private resources. There was also the concern that he could tamper with witnesses or obstruct the ongoing investigation. The judges so far had agreed, keeping him locked up as the legal proceedings dragged on. As the trial date approaches, the anticipation grows. The world is waiting to see how this once celebrated figure will defend himself against accusations that could destroy everything he has built. And in the background, those 90 terabytes of data continue to loom large, a digital Pandora's box that may hold the answers to questions no one thought they'd be asking about Sean Diddy Combs. For now, all we can do is wait. Wait for the trial to begin, wait to see what evidence will be revealed, and wait for the moment when Diddy's extraordinary fall from grace will either be solidified or dismissed.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface,
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
where hidden killers roam unnoticed in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Bruschi as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.